Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. What if the way you see yourself isn't actually true, but based on beliefs you have been carrying your whole life? Okay, let's break it down. So, what are beliefs? Beliefs are deeply held assumptions or convictions that shape how we interpret the world and make decisions. So, beliefs, there are assumptions, convictions, the things we think, the things we believe, and it shapes the way that we see, interpret, and understand the world and therefore make our decisions. Okay. So beliefs sort of act as these mental filters and they really influence our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, this is completely subconscious and we don't even realize it. And where do beliefs come from? Okay, we talk about this a lot. Like, this is kind of like that nature versus nurture conversation, right? And beliefs come from a combination of things. So it could come from our experiences, the life experiences that we have. It can come from our upbringing, right? So the way we were nurtured as children, regardless of what kind of environment we grew up in. It can be our culture, right? The fact that I grew up in, the States, but I'm also Hungarian and all of that, that affected me. And also repeated messages from our environment. So the things that you hear people say, see people say, the way they interact, the way they look at you. And from a young age, obviously, we absorb our beliefs from the people around us, the people we spend the most time from, whether that's parents and caregivers, whether it's teachers, society, the friends we hang out with, school, right? And we often do this as children without questioning, right? Because we're looking at people who are in authority positions and we're like, oh, well, they must know what they're talking about, right? Like they must be right. Our brains also, unfortunately or fortunately, create beliefs as a way to make sense of experiences, right? So if something is continuously happening over and over and over again, we just assume it's true, right? Because that's what we think. But over time, these beliefs become ingrained in us. And then they end up shaping our self perception, our relationships, also our actions, unless we decide to say, hey, I don't know about this. Let me examine this situation. Let me challenge this situation and let me actually think critically about it. Because the thing is beliefs act as sort of this like invisible filter through which we see the world. And again, it's mostly subconscious, so we don't even realize that it's happening the majority of the time. So what's the science behind beliefs? Because there is science behind the beliefs, right? So beliefs, and I've talked about this before, beliefs are wired into the brain through our neural pathways, okay? So we all have neural pathways that can change. And these act sort of like a mental shortcut so that we can like process information really quickly. So think about it this way. Every time we encounter a new experience, like we're in a totally newer experience, our brain compares that new situation to past experiences and is like, what do I think about this? How does it relate to past experiences that I have, right? What's happening here? And then it will, because of that, like it does this really quickly, it will then form an automatic response. So even if a situation is new to you, you will still act in a certain way based on other things that have happened to you, right? Because your brain is like, ooh, this sounds similar to this, or this was, similar to something else that happened, and it will make assumptions. So this is why we often react to situations in predictable ways. Like, I can tell you how my husband is going to react in many different situations, even if he's never been in that situation, because I've seen how he reacts in other similar situations. Again, our brains are running on these pre-programmed beliefs, okay? So there's such a thing called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. So this is when we talk about manifestation affirmations. I'm like, you need to say your affirmations because you're going to rewire your brain. That's neuroplasticity. You can actually change the way you think. You don't have to have those beliefs for the rest of your life. They used to think that you would have those beliefs the rest of your life, but we've actually realized that your brain has neuroplasticity and it can change. That's why affirmations, manifestations, mindset work, all of those things are so important. So this is a good thing because it means that beliefs aren't fixed. So if you grow up thinking that like everyone is mean, for example, you can change the way you think so that you don't think that anymore, which is really great. So when we actively challenge our old beliefs, negative beliefs, lack mindset beliefs, and we reinforce new ones through repetition and action, this is when we create those new neural connections. So again, this is where the mindset nervous system regulation work comes in to change your beliefs, okay? And we talk about this a lot. Cognitive reframing, again, the visualizations, affirmations can reshape your beliefs over time. And just the fact of understanding that beliefs can be changed, I think is just so helpful and just such an empowerment tool to say like, yeah, I think this now, but as an individual, as a person, I have the power to change the beliefs at any time I please, which I think is just so powerful. I really think it is. So how do our beliefs actually affect our behavior? Let's break it down. So our beliefs influence our actions through what's called a self-reinforcing cycle, okay? So our beliefs shape our thoughts. If you believe, for example, you're bad at public speaking, you'll say or think something like, oh, I always mess up when I talk in front of people, right? And then those thoughts are going to influence your emotions, right? So because you say to yourself, oh, I always mess up when I talk in front of people, your emotion is going to be anxiety before talking to people. And then your emotions drive actions. So you having anxiety is going to enforce the action of not doing speaking opportunities because you are anxious, because you think you're bad at it. And then actions reinforce these beliefs, right? So every time you struggle, every time you don't do something, it's going to keep strengthening the fact that you're bad at public speaking. And the cycle goes on and on and on. And the more you think you're bad at public speaking, the more you'll be bad at public speaking, the more you'll keep thinking it. And it's just a nasty cycle that goes on and on and on. And this really applies to like every area of life. So someone who believes in the opposite way, who's capable and deserving and is going to do something well, they will be able to do that. Because again, their beliefs are going to shape their thoughts. Their thoughts shape their emotions. Emotions drive their actions. And then the actions are going to reinforce that belief, whether it's positive or not, right? So if someone believes they're worthy, they're going to keep being worthy and get those opportunities. If someone believes they're unworthy, they may sabotage those opportunities, right? So it's about shifting those beliefs so you can break this negative cycle and have a more abundant cycle. And so just going into kind of like the energy around beliefs. So beyond just the mindset aspect of it, beliefs really do influence our energy. And we can look at this from a spiritual perspective. We can look at this from just like a quantum physics, like science perspective. But your energy that you put out into the world is what you're going to attract. And I talk about this all the time with my career coaching clients. I'm telling them, if you're going into job searching, right? Like if they physically open LinkedIn and are searching for jobs, or they're going into interview prep and you have a lack mindset, you think you're not going to do good, you think you won't find any jobs, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then you're not going to find anything. You're going to be even more annoyed that you don't find anything. It's going to reinforce the belief that there aren't any good jobs out there, and the cycle goes and goes and goes. Like, why wouldn't we just change the belief? Well, I know why, because it's challenging, but that's what's happening. So, and this concept often is linked to manifestation, but I think this is such a good way to break it down, because I think a lot of times we think of manifestation, it's like, oh, it's this very woo-woo thing. It's very out there. It's very kind of extra, but that's not necessarily the case, right? And when we believe wholeheartedly, when we believe that we are valuable, that we are capable, and then we carry ourselves in that way, we will have more confidence, and people will treat us with more respect, and we will get the opportunities that we want. And again, in the opposite, if we believe we're not good enough, we're going to shrink ourselves, we avoid opportunities, and we reinforce that reality. Okay, that's the problem. So this is why confidence is so powerful. This is why an abundance mindset is so powerful. It signals to others and also to ourselves, to our own brain, that we are worthy of all the things we want, whether it's success, love, opportunities, money, whatever it is. So I would say, like, just as like a tip, even if you don't 100% fully believe something yet, right? Still work and try to shift your energy through those small mindset shifts, right? Like the nervous system regulation, the mindset work, and intentional action, because you will see that you will start attracting those things. So, how can we identify and then shift our limiting beliefs? Okay. So, to change the beliefs that we have, we first need to identify them. Like, we need to know they're even there, right? So, here's a couple of questions you can ask yourself to kind of identify. So, the first thing is what is one belief that may be holding me back? Let's just start with one. Next question you can ask is, where did this belief come from? Did you learn it from family? Did you hear it from society, past relationships, past experiences? And then ask yourself, who would I be without this belief? Now, this may be quite introspective, so it may take you a little bit to kind of think this over, which is totally fine. But this is where I would start, because once you recognize the limiting belief and you like say it out loud, write it down, whatever, then you can start challenging it. Then you can start challenging it and say, I don't know about all this. I don't know how I feel about this, right? And then you can start to look for evidence that contradicts it, right? And, an example of this is like when I was, in 2020, I had a really bad breakup, which I've talked about a lot. And I'm like, there's no good men out there. They're all trash. They're all bad, all the things. And I worked with a therapist. I worked a lot on my self-love and feeling self-love and being worthy of love. And I was also working on manifesting my ideal partner that hit all the boxes that I wanted. And I did find someone. And I did change the belief. And I was open to meeting someone, right? And so this is showing how me changing the belief that I had of all men are trash to I will find the right person for me, right? Allowed me to be open energetically, spiritually, physically, in all the ways to find that person that I was meant to be with. So then you can try to reframe the belief into something more powerful, right? So a good one is money. We talk about money a lot. Is instead of saying, I'm not good at making money, right? You don't have to say, oh, I'm a millionaire or I make millions of dollars if that doesn't feel realistic, right? Instead, you can say something like, I am learning how to create financial opportunities, or I am good at creating financial opportunities, right? Do you see how it's like a level up and it's still abundant, but it doesn't feel necessarily super unrealistic? Because we do want it to be to some degree realistic. Like it needs to be kind of a challenge or something that feels a little outside of the box, because that's the whole point of growing. But we also don't want it to be so extreme that you feel like that's not realistic and like you're saying it, but your body, your mind doesn't really believe it. So after we've done all this is the time when we want to take aligned action. So this is the huge mistake people make with manifestation. They think, oh, I'm just like thinking good thoughts and positive thoughts and like the $1 million will come to me. No, that's only step one. Then you actually have to take the aligned action, right? So it's not just about thinking differently. You have to start acting in ways that enforce and reinforce this new belief, okay? So like, for example, public speaking, you're saying like, okay, yes, I'm great at public speaking. I can get up in front of people without being nervous. Like I can speak really well. Well, then you actually have to take action and put yourself in situations where you can do public speaking, right? Like you can't challenge that belief if you're just never going to do public speaking again, So this is where you really have to act as if, or fake it till you make it, however you want to say that. So when you start embodying this new belief, even before you fully believe it, your brain is going to start adapting to it. But again, this can, we don't want this to enforce this like false positivity. You have to start taking those aligned small action steps so that it actually starts to feel more and more authentic, and you can have more and more evidence that it's actually working, right? So again, public speaking, do public speaking situations, right? Money, manage $5 that you have, right? Like, it's not about doing the most. It's taking small aligned action steps, okay? Maybe you're job searching and you're like, okay, I'm going to find one job that I like in 45 minutes, okay? And then you go into it positively and you find one job, and that's reinforcing with action that positive belief, okay? And you can start in small, safe environments. So again, you don't have to do something extreme. You don't have to do something crazy. Start in those small environments that feel safe to you. And if you're shifting a belief about worthiness, relationships, then, take a small step to communicate boundaries, ask for what you need, right? Over time, all of these very small actions that you take are going to become so second nature. Your belief is going to be completely changed, and you're going to be a new person when it comes to this topic. I guarantee it. So beliefs are super important. I really believe that this is what separates people from being happy and successful and getting to where they actually want to be. And this is something that's not easy to work on. Like, changing your beliefs is hard, right? It's uncomfortable. We're in a situation that we're not used to. So it's completely understandable that it's a challenge. But is it worth it to you? Is it worth it to get to your goal? Is it worth it to be happy and have what you want in life? And that's really what it comes down to. Okay, I hope you like this episode. I love this topic. It's super, super good, and hopefully you took something away from it. If you love this episode, please leave a 5-star review. It really helps the promotion of the podcast. I hope you all have an amazing week. Happy April, and I'll catch you in the next episode.